Psychopath, in the broadest sense, would be someone who sort of engages in a persistent pattern of antisocial behavior that violates the rights of others. But not just the behavior, also as a certain personality structure. That is, has a certain lack of remorse, engages in callousness, but also has a kind of superficial charm.
Okay, let's share the research we've done so far. I read that successful psychopaths are able to exploit people and avoid crime, possibly becoming high-power business people or lawyers. Also, in contrast to criminal psychopaths, these people have a higher conscientiousness.
And here's a study that suggests that a lack of moral knowledge is not a sufficient explanation for a psychopath's behavior, because inmates correctly classified 82.6% of moral wrongs.
People should remember that no psychiatric or psychological association has sanctioned a diagnosis of psychopathy itself.
I'm pretty sure you're quoting Wikipedia.
Well, whatever. A study showed that the amygdala and ventromedial prefrontal cortex were dysfunctional in psychopaths.
Well, Linda Mealy's paper says that there's two ways to become a psychopath: a more genetically influenced primary psychopath and a more developmentally influenced secondary psychopath.
Well, she's dead now. What does she know?
So, before this interview, let's review the Hair Psychopathy checklist to get ready to talk to Dr. Hicks.
Okay, lack of empathy, guilt, and failure to accept responsibility.
All right, let's see. Superficial charm, cunning, and manipulative. Interesting.
Oh, those are the personality factors. Let's look at some of the behavioral ones, like need for stimulation and poor behavioral control.
Kaz, are you even listening? Ugh, whatever. We should probably get over to the interview now. They say 1 in 3 psychopathy researchers gets a chill when talking to one of them.
Oh, that's why I always carry an extra blanket.
Wait, what?
They're often talking about this sort of lack of being embarrassed, for example, a lack of shame, lack of guilt. So just sort of that lack of sort of apprehension about various punishment cues. I've met them in sort of research settings, mostly through prisons, but I have in real life met someone who I actually rented a room from this guy in his condo when I was on internship, and it turned out he was a raging psychopath. He just had this little Weimaraner dog, puppy, which is a very active breed, and he just totally lost interest in it, like after a few weeks. But he didn't stop finding it annoying, so he had a shock collar on it. When he would use the shock collar all the time, he would leave it in his kennel, and it would just, cry and whimper and stuff like that. And it's just, there's a certain callousness about it, and a lack of responsibility, which is also sort of typical of these things, kind of making an impulsive decision, and then not following through on it, and then not really doing anything to deal with the consequences of that. It's only over a long period of time that you're able to kind of figure out that there's something very wrong with this person. You get a group of people that, so these are among people who are all high scores on the PCLR, who are like aggressive and impulsive and kind of what you would think is like a really extreme kind of criminal sort of personality type of person. But then you get this other group of people that doesn't look like that at all. They're actually they look well adjusted. They're actually low on anxiety. They're very socially dominant. They're agentic even. They're kind of high on like achievement striving. They kind of have, they tend to be sort of have a happy, pleasant disposition. They're a little bit risk taking, but not so much so. And what's interesting is if you just gave these people the PCLR, you wouldn't be able to distinguish those two groups. But if you give sort of other sort of more refined measures of personality, you get these very different types. And so there's the idea that perhaps there are different sort of etiological processes underlying those two types. Perhaps the one is more this sort of behavioral disinhibition, externalizing type. And another one might have something more to do with this sort of fearlessness. The factor 2 sort of traits, they actually decline a lot from late adolescence into young adulthood, which is kind of consistent with a lot of developmental literature about sort of brain maturation and sort of people kind of maturing out of a lot of problematic behavior. But the factor 1 traits, kind of more this fearlessness stuff, they didn't show any real significant developmental change. And there's things called like multisystemic therapy or sort of variants thereof, where they kind of wrap the whole family in services. And the idea is you need to intervene at sort of the whole ecology of the child. At some point, basically the only alternative treatment is incarceration.
A lot of what he said in the interview was really familiar to me.
Oh no, everybody, look! They fell down the stairs!